Have you ever wondered what animates your physical body? What gives you life force? What keeps you connected to the invisible realms even when you're fast asleep? In our modern world, we've forgotten that we're more than just flesh and bone. The ancient mystery school spoke of multiple bodies within us, layers of existence beyond the physical form. Today, we're going to explore one of the most fundamental yet mysterious aspects of human nature, the etheric body. We want to say thank you for being on this journey with us as we uncover these timeless teachings together. Subscribe and join the community seeking to understand the deeper mysteries of our existence. Now let's get into it. Before we dive deep into the etheric body itself, we need to understand how this knowledge has been preserved and transmitted through various spiritual traditions. This isn't New Age invention. This is ancient wisdom that's been taught across cultures for millennia.
But the answer to all the questions is the etheric body, right? Or thinking, feeling, and willing. That's the first answer to all anthroposophic questions. Thinking, feeling, and willing.
Douglas Gabriel here, he's spent decades working with Waldorf education. He's suggesting that if we want to understand spiritual development, we need to start with the etheric body and these forces he mentions. And then he continues.
But after that, then it comes down to warmth, light, sound, and life. In other words, the ethers. And then the etheric body, and then the etheric formative forces and all these things. Those are the answers to all of the mechanical questions.
This is the symbol of Ka.
Ka.
The Ka is the Egyptian version of the etheric body.
What's fascinating is how this understanding shows up across completely different traditions. The ancient Egyptians knew this so well, they had specific rituals for the Ka, the etheric double. In Tibetan Buddhism, they call it the La body. The Greeks referred to it as the eidolon. And through the work of Rudolf Steiner and the Theosophical movement, we get this term etheric body or life body. I mean, when you see the same concepts appearing in cultures that had no contact with each other, it makes you wonder what they were all perceiving, doesn't it?
The ethereal body is united with the physical body by an umbilical cord, a material cord, and cannot therefore be very far from it.
Now, here's Helena Blavatsky, founder of the Theosophical Society, describing how she saw this connection between our physical form and what she calls this ethereal body. What strikes me about her description is how intimate this connection is, like we're tethered to something larger than ourselves. So let's get into what this etheric body actually is. Rudolf Steiner, and I have to say, the more I study his work, the more amazed I am by what he was able to perceive. He called it the second principle of human nature, but listen to how he describes it.
The body belonging to man, which is perceptible to the senses, and with which alone ordinary science is concerned, is the expression of a subtle, supersensible, or etheric body, in which the material or physical body is enclosed, like a denser nucleus, as though in a cloud.
Rudolf Steiner, for those who don't know, was a clairvoyant born in 1861 who was able to supersensibly perceive and left us with the most valuable coherent information into understanding what we can in regards to the etheric planes. And the idea of the etheric body goes much further than the incredible minds mentioned thus far. Here's someone who might surprise you, Jakob Boehme. He was a 17th century shoemaker, but he was having these incredible mystical experiences and writing about them. Listen to what he understood about human nature.
This threefold soul was at once breathed into man, and each substance of the body received the spirit according to its property. The outward flesh received the outward air and its constellations for a rational and vegetative life, to the manifestation of the wonders of God. And the light body, or heavenly substance, received the breath of the light of the great divine powers and virtues, which breath is called the Holy Ghost.
A shoemaker in the 1600s, understanding that humans have both a physical body and what he calls a light body, what we're now calling the etheric body, and he saw that this light body is what receives the divine breath, the life force that actually animates matter. Now, here's something that really blew my mind when I first learned about it, and it comes from Steiner's clairvoyant observations. He noticed that unlike your physical body, which ages and deteriorates, your etheric body actually grows younger as you age. As he states here,
The etheric body does not in any way grow older. The etheric body grows younger and younger, in the same degree in which the physical body grows older, until it reaches, as it were, a certain childlike stage of etheric existence, when the human being passes through the portal of death, after having reached a normal age. When we are born, our etheric body glistens and shines inwardly, because it is so full of imaginations that come towards it from the great universe. It is a magnificent reflection of the universe.
there's this beautiful paradox happening. As our physical bodies wear down through the years, our etheric bodies actually become more refined, more childlike, more connected to the spiritual realms. When we're born, our etheric body comes to us complete with cosmic forces and starlight. So how does this etheric body actually work in your everyday life? Douglas Gabriel has this incredible way of explaining things, and it's in reference the first of many developmental stages of our lives that proceed one after the other in forming our bodies, which we will dive deeper into in another video. But this is what he says.
So the first 7 years, essentially you're like a gardener, right? Because you're working the etheric body primarily. And then when you get to the change of teeth, then it goes into the astral development, which...
Sorry, I forgot to mention this beforehand. The person talking there was Douglas's good friend and editor, John Barnwell. They are a dynamic duo, and I highly recommend watching their videos together for deep understanding into the world of anthroposophy. But to reiterate what he said, so you're basically gardening life force during those early years. And what he's sharing here about Waldorf education really makes you think about how we approach childhood development. Now, you might be wondering, and this is what I was curious about too, what's my etheric body actually doing right now as I'm watching this? And honestly, when I learned about this from Steiner, it completely changed how I think about sleep. When you're awake, your etheric body is busy providing your life force and vitality. But when you sleep, something pretty amazing happens.
When the human being is asleep, we may discern in his etheric body the imagination of that part of the universe which belongs, to begin with, to the earth. The etheric body contains, in a play of wonderful pictures, all the forces that must stream into the earth, out of the etheric world, so that the earth's events may take place.
So when you sleep, your etheric body becomes like this cosmic receiving station. You're not just resting, but actively participating in how the earth itself processes cosmic information. Steiner is saying the earth is literally thinking through our sleeping bodies. Pretty wild concept, right? And then he shares something that really puts this in perspective.
As a physical being, man belongs to the earth, and just as truly does he belong to the heavens as an etheric being.
So think about what this means for your spiritual practice. Your etheric body is your connection to these larger cosmic forces. When you feel that sense of expansion during meditation, when you sense energy moving through your body, when you feel connected to something greater than yourself, that's your etheric body doing what it naturally does. And here's something from Douglas that really made me pay attention to my environment in a whole new way.
Every single piece of paper, every push pin, every staple, every pencil, the way you arrange it in a classroom goes right into the child's etheric body. Messy classroom, messy teacher, messy thinking, poor results. Guaranteed.
It really makes you think about how sensitive we are to our environment. Everything around you, your living space, the people you spend time with, even how organized your belongings are, is directly affecting your life force and clarity of thinking.
When an etheric body abandons a human being who has passed through the portal of death at an early age, that etheric body might still have maintained that man's life on the physical plane for many decades. When an etheric body belonging to a youthful body passes through the portal of death, it still contains a great deal of unused heavenly light.
So this unused heavenly light doesn't just disappear, it becomes available to those of us still here who are working towards spiritual development. I find this idea deeply comforting, that these etheric forces can inspire and support spiritual seekers in ways most of us never realize. Gigi Young has this beautiful way of describing what happens during the death process.
What happens exactly when the physical body dies, okay? What happens is that all of the spiritual forces in the body begin to center into the heart center, the chamber of the heart center. And they begin to gather there and gather there and gather there. And then they usually begin to move up, and they actually go out of the head, out of the crown of the head. So that's actually how the etheric body, the astral body, and the I, as what we would call the spiritual substrate of the human being, all bound up together, that's how it actually begins to separate from the body.
What Gigi describes here for death actually sounds similar to what happens in deep meditation or conscious spiritual practice. It makes me wonder if understanding the etheric body helps us work with this life force more consciously while we're alive. And she also shares some interesting insights about why cremation became popular through the Theosophical Society.
If the physical body is cremated, then there is no chance of that wraith hanging around, and that etheric shell is sort of forced to dissolve, and that is actually most oftentimes actually better for the soul.
So the idea seems to be not to cling to these etheric patterns, but to allow the soul to move on, while those unused etheric forces can somehow benefit humanity's spiritual evolution. It's a pretty profound way of thinking about death and continuation, isn't it? So how do we develop a conscious relationship with our etheric body in our modern technological world? Well, this is where ancient wisdom starts bumping up against some pretty contemporary challenges. Douglas Gabriel shares something fascinating about our DNA and how it relates to this etheric broadcasting system.
And your DNA, now they know, emits blue light, and it emits frequencies and signals. And it basically is communicating like a whale. Each whale pod has their own sounding. And so that's what your DNA is. It's your own sounding. So when you're standing next to somebody who has mutating DNA that's allowing the spirit to come in because they're writing.
So your etheric body is like this broadcasting and receiving antenna. And we have these 3 energy centers around the heart, stomach, and head that when they're coherent can push back harmful electromagnetic frequencies. And then Douglas shares this really practical spiritual approach.
I do the continual prayer, not I, but Christ in me. That alone will create the force that will stop incoherent energy from harming your body and will rewrite your DNA so that the God particle expands into a much bigger section of your genome.
So he's saying through conscious spiritual practice, you can strengthen your etheric body's ability to transform harmful frequencies into beneficial ones. I would like to mention too, this is not just Christian denominations that can practice this saying. This Christ in me is the spiritual connection to the consciousness of the divine. This is for every being. And there's an even more practical, down-to-earth, literally, approach to etheric development that comes from traditional practices.
And gardening is another way that I was told by old anthroposophists to open up your ability to clairvoyantly see the etheric.
Working with living plants, maintaining rhythm in your daily life, and working with children, these are all ways to develop etheric consciousness because they put you in direct contact with life forces. I love how practical this is, It's not about sitting in a cave meditating for years. It's about engaging with life. Let me share 3 practical ways you might start working with your etheric body based on what we've explored together. First, environmental etheric hygiene. Take seriously what Douglas Gabriel was sharing about environment affecting your etheric body. Maybe try creating more order and beauty in your living space. Choose natural materials when you can. Just pay attention to whether things around you feel like they're supporting or draining your energy. In regards to all the electromagnetic frequencies bombarding us in our environment, we suggest doing research into Ibrahim Karim's biogeometry. We will do videos on these in depth, but for now we suggest looking at his YouTube channel, Biogeometry, and his website, biogeometry.ca. Second, rhythmic living. Your etheric body really thrives on rhythm. Try establishing consistent sleep and wake times if you can. Eat regularly. Create some daily practices that honor natural rhythms. It might not just be healthy living, it could be seen as etheric body development, and not only that, but helping the etheric bodies of those around you. For we are affected and do affect those around us, both negatively and positively. Why not try to be a positive influence on all of those around us? Third, conscious breathing and heart-centered awareness. Remember Douglas talking about your etheric heart containing the reflection of the cosmos? Maybe several times a day, place your attention on your heart center and breathe consciously. See if you can sense life force moving through your body. It's simple, but it might begin to awaken this etheric awareness. This is where I personally try the not I, but Christ in me throughout the day, and try to sense within myself the divine functions working through all of our bodies. When you properly nurture life force, it has this potential to go far beyond what you might expect. The etheric body contains unlimited potential for growth and development. You know, the etheric body represents one of the most practical aspects of spiritual development. It's not abstract philosophy floating around in the clouds somewhere. It's this living bridge between your physical existence and your spiritual nature.
Well, yes, because that is the only answer. You have to study it for the rest of your life, and then some, and then a few more lives, and then some more. And there's no end to it, because what I'm going to explain here is so incredible that it's almost unbelievable.
And I love Douglas's honesty here. This isn't something you master over a weekend workshop. It's a lifetime journey of understanding. But I think every step you take in developing etheric consciousness could contribute to your own spiritual evolution and even to humanity's collective awakening. As more people become curious about these teachings, we will be participating in a collective evolution of consciousness. Each person who develops etheric awareness is contributing to humanity's spiritual progress.
We only need to direct our souls, as it were, in the mood of prayer towards these etheric bodies. All those who are filled with enthusiasm for spiritual science only need to direct their souls towards these forces, and they will obtain help from these etheric bodies.
The path forward isn't about becoming perfect or having all the answers. It's about sincere engagement with these timeless teachings. Your etheric body is already perfect, and you're simply learning to work with it more consciously. If this conversation resonates with you, please share this video with others. Subscribe to join our community of seekers, and let me know in the comments what you've experienced as you begin working with etheric awareness. Together, we're rediscovering wisdom that connects us all to the cosmic forces that surround and sustain us. Thank you for walking this path of understanding with us. Until next week.